budget for risk, and then they distribute that to the different silos of business units, and then the different silos sort of like work within that risk, the actual.
That's sort of budget that
Yeah. So how that affects an organization is that the more risk, so on the one extreme end, you can be like a risk-seeking, risk-loving, and then on the other, which is like you love risk, you want to take on risk.
I think it's so funny. The risk-loving for me is such a weird concept. It sounds like it's like a member of your family or something.
Exactly.
Like, sorry. It's weird for me.
And then on the other extreme end, it's risk averse, meaning that like you're afraid of risk. And then in like smack dab in the middle, it's like risk neutral. So the type of organization, like you can generally tell the risk appetite of an organization depending on the stakeholders that are involved.
Yeah.
So let's say we had a hedge fund, which it's like a return maximization machine, basically. So the individuals that can actually put their money into hedge funds are usually like very wealthy individuals, right? And they have set that money aside. They like if they lose all of that money, it won't have that much of an impact on their total.
Well,
on the total. So so the sort of trustee or hedge fund manager of that actual pool has liberties to be more like risk-seeking, or risk-loving in order to maximize return.
Yeah.
So even though in some years, like if you look at it in like a 1-year view, like returns might be low, or a 2-year view. But like when you sort of look at it like a 30-year view, like the returns could be like higher than, like anyone, an alternate organization.
Yeah.
And then on the other extreme end of that is like, let's say a pension fund. So with the pension fund, it's your pension is something that you're going to need for survival.
Yeah.
After you retire. So the trustees of that organization sort of they wouldn't have much liberty to be risk-seeking to attain like superior return.
There's a lot of prescription as to sort of your different asset allocations, etc. Like you only be up to a certain percentage in equity and foreign equity and whatever, or even exposure to a specific bank. Those line item sort of specifics are quite something.
Yes, exactly. So the amount of risk you can take there is like it's much lower than like a hedge fund. So an individual and an organization's risk appetite affects their returns in the short term, and it affects their returns in the long term. And it could also speak to the types of or the financial situation they're in, the liabilities that they have, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, which I think is interesting because I think it's known in actuarial space that investment is a discipline, but I don't think when you think of an actuary, you think of investment.
Yes.
Because insurance is kind of where everyone sort of associates actuaries with. So I think that's been really useful discussion. But let's now move over to the F106, which is the enterprise risk management. What is that, and what is the CERA designation that sort of comes with that? If you could just speak to that.
So enterprise risk is actually becoming like a hot topic, and it's it's going to become an even hotter topic. So with that, it all like starts like, I want to say like 30 years ago, when a German bank, I think Herstatt, confidence ability, but that bank sort of like it failed, right? In about like 1972, around there. And then that sort of like started the Basel I requirements, right? And then again in 2008 we had another kerfuffle, and then
one way of putting it.
That's one way of putting it. And then that sort of like led to more stricter banking regulations. And then in 2013, those like stricter banking regulations have been refined. And what people are discovering is that, or what people have been discovering is that, like a crash happens and then it's a response to that crash.
Yeah.
And some sort of crash happens, and then it's a response to that crash, et cetera, et cetera.
So it's very reactive.
Yeah. So right now, with the whole emphasis on risk, people are trying to put in certain things in place to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay, it's proactive.
Yes, it's
and preventative.
Yes, exactly. So somebody who or has the CERA designation, it's sort of banks, or it came from finance essentially, that especially in the banking industry, that they are failing, and one of their biggest contributors was credit risk, right? But then they discovered, okay, it's not just credit risk, but it's also like operational risk as well. So it's also things that you don't necessarily like see, that aren't tangible, that aren't measurable. So for instance, it's how the bank is run, how the actual workers are trained, the IT systems, the computer software.
It's like holistic, like risk sort of pops up everywhere.
Yes, exactly. And that risk compounds in on itself, and then it leads to things like failing.
Yeah.
So if somebody with the CERA designation has an understanding of the holistic risks of the of any organization, so you might not understand like how a certain organization works like outright, but after doing research and speaking to the people within the organization, you can spot things easier that could go wrong in the future.
Yeah.
So the whole objective of that is to put like key risk indicators and key risk metrics in place.
Okay. So it was like measure the pulse and the risk.
Exactly. So it's to make sure that if, let's say, the line managers deviate from that, then it'll sort of like set off like a red flag.
Yeah.
So it can be rectified. And it's also trying to create a good like risk culture.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people like, the first big problem in an organization is that if it's disjointed, then let's say I'm working in accounting and in the accounting department, and I see an issue that should be raised in IT. If I'm an accountant, I'm not inclined to go, okay, there might be like a security breach here, so maybe I should report it. I'm more inclined to say, okay, this is not my problem.
Exactly. It's not my job.
Yeah, it's not my job. IT should deal with it. So I should just stay on like auditing and do my accounting things.
Yeah.
So the first struggle is to sort of like make everyone a little bit more integrated. So that's creating like a common risk taxonomy that people can use. So it's like in an organization, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, if you see something that could go wrong, you can potentially raise that to management, and management will raise that to the CRO. And then after that, it's people tend to think like that when they do something wrong, they will, get punished for it.
Yeah.
So let's say that you make a mistake in the program somewhere, and even though and then you try to fix it yourself.
Yeah.
It's way better to create an organization where you are encouraged to alert others of your mistake as soon as possible, so that it can be fixed.
You can have ramifications that you don't understand.
Yeah. So you should like have like no shame in your actual like mistake that you did. You report it, you learn from it, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the entire goal of CERA. So how the way that actuaries, how they actually contribute to that is, again, the title liabilities, first of all, and then second of all, actuaries have or the way we think, it's sort of like geared to that, like trying to find every possible thing that can go wrong within an organization.
Kind of
And then there's also the like measuring of it. So the content, the notes are based off of Paul Sweeting's book.
Okay.
Right. And he was sort of like the first I guess you could say, person to pioneer this and be chief risk officer, that sort of thing. So we also improve upon his work by bringing in various like statistical distributions that we can use in finance mainly. And then there's also like the sort of, I want to say, soft skills, because there are certain risks that are not tangible and not measurable and require like you to have like an opinion, you know, an informed opinion. So, you know, we contribute in that space as well. So enterprise risk management is really flexible. So you're not limited to let's say like a bank or an insurance company. You could possibly
risk appears.
Yeah, exactly.
You could work in any area where risk appears.
Yeah, you could work in like a utilities company even, and then, you know, just try to understand how this thing works and
how their system could be fractured or stretched, etc., and how that could sort of play out. I think just for the audience, CERA, which is the designation, is a certified enterprise risk actuary. And in order to become that, you do S1E16 and you also do a one-day course. And then it's an additional designation to FASA. So you can get the sort of like additional title outside of just being an actuary. So a lot of people find that like attractive just to get another designation, but I think it's so very interesting space and also quite a new space, as you said.
Yes.
So if you're interested in sort of wider fields and the expanding fields of actuarial science, it's a good one to consider. So thank you for that. So many other things I still want to discuss, but let's talk to your tutor here at UCT. Right. Talk to the courses that you tutor and whether you found that tutoring has been a valuable experience for you, and if so, why?
So the main courses are the Introduction to Actuarial Science, and then
so you are my right hand.
And then the it's financial engineering or financial economics, depending on which university or wherever. So I think my favorite course to like be involved in and to tutor is definitely financial engineering, because it's a bit difficult to sort of interact with first years. So just
heavily based, right? Like
exactly.
It's the first time that they engage with actuarial science. And for them it's just like, oh, okay. And also they don't really do anything too meaty kind of thing, right? Exactly. Kind of just telling them, giving them a bit of exposure. Whereas financial engineering, we do it at a fourth year level, IPCT. So by then you've done fit maths, you've done quantities, you've done modeling. So then by then you're like, okay, I actually have a better understanding of the environment of an actuary.
Yes, exactly. And with a lot of first years, it's sort of, they're kind of discovering what they actually want to do in life. So,
and many of them see that it's not actuarial science.
And it's not actuarial science because like we advertise it, or it's not even us. Like a lot of people advertise it as like a very mathematical degree, and people are here for the maths. So quite a few people like actually leave because they want to do something that's
more quantitative.
Yes, exactly. And then some people just leave because they think that being an actuary is just like insurance and pensions and that sort of thing. And
and then like that's too niche.
Yeah, exactly. So the first years are still like a bit liquid, and
I like that. It's fluid, They're being molded.
Exactly. And like if you're actually like trying to, you know, actually work with something or play with something, it's a bit difficult to do with liquid because, you know, it's just everywhere.
It's I like this. So analogy.
The fourth years are solid, so you can like
really, I think some of them are a bit viscous.
But either way, the fourth years are like interesting to deal with, interesting to talk to, interesting to, you know. The first years are as well, but in terms of actuarial science, the fourth years are.
And the actual role of the tutor, like, how would you describe that role? And do you think that it's been helpful for you in your actuarial part, sort of having to re-explain concepts? And would you advise other people to possibly consider tutoring as part of their sort of actuarial journey?
So it's basically the role of a tutor is to like help students to understand like certain complex concepts. So we, like, obviously we